As the sun rises over the rooftops of Kruunuhaka in Helsinki on a summer morning, the rays hit a group of sculptures portraying three maidens on the roof of the building at the corner of Rauhankatu and Snellmaninkatu. Normally, a person walking down the street does not notice them at all. What kind of building is this, with the text Archivum Finlandiae Publicum, the public archives of Finland, above the facade? It is the main building of the National Archives, built in neo-Renaissance style on this corner site in the vicinity of the Bank of Finland in 1890. It's one of the finest achievements of its designer, the architect Gustav Nyström. Furthermore, it's the first building designed for archival purposes in the Nordic countries and in the entire Russian Empire. The group of female figures adorning the roof ridge of the National Archives, designed by sculptor C. E. Sjöstrand, is loaded with symbolism. The figure personifying Finland offers a roll of parchment to the muse of history, as a third figure, the muse of source criticism, sits absorbed in a large book on the left. Sjöstrand united patriotism, the writing of history, and source criticism in these classic female figures, and succeeded, perhaps unintentionally, in conveying an illustrative picture of the operations of the archives through the abundance of volumes and rolls. The group of sculptures is also depicted in the emblem and the seal of the National Archives. The main building of the National Archives has been extended with several annexes. The public entrance into the depths of the archives leads through a part designed by Olof Hansson. This part was completed in 1972. The entrance staircase is a good example of the many public staircases in Helsinki that require good physical condition. When you go up these stairs, you will enter into Finnish history. The central room of the building, the catalogue room, is filled with light flooding in through the skylights. The light falls onto the non-figurative wall painting by artist Tur Arne. The catalogue room is the memory of the archives. It contains the archives' catalogues and registers of the National Archives, making it possible to order archival units, volumes, and casings. Here you can also access the electronic Vakka database. Information has been fed into the database not only about the material of the National Archives, but also about the materials of the 7 provincial archives. When researchers place a document order, they have to sign an agreement not to violate information privacy. The National Archives storage facilities in Rauhankatu contain approximately 52 shelf kilometers of archival material and approximately 1 million maps or drawings. The storage rooms are situated in various parts of the building. The aim is to maintain the temperature at 18 degrees Celsius and the relative humidity of the air at approximately 50% in the storage rooms. Separate storage rooms with optimal climate and other conditions are provided for electronic material that can be damaged easily. Finally, the documents land in front of a researcher in the National Archives reading rooms, perhaps for the first time after the end of their official use. There are about 30,000 researcher visits annually. The researchers represent the wide spectrum of research: university teachers, students writing their thesis, local historians and genealogists, but also journalists and ordinary people visiting the archives for the first time, in order to get acquainted with a single issue that's of special interest to them. In all, the main building of the National Archives contains approximately 120 researcher desks and 9 researcher chambers. In archival research, the desired information usually is scattered in different archives and archive series. The text is written in old handwriting that is hard to read, and on top of it all, the language is outdated and teeming with odd expressions. Furthermore, the researcher must be familiar with the extensive research literature related to the issue, and to be able to achieve a sympathetic understanding of the past. Without imagination, the sources will not reveal their stories. New interpretations of history continually emerge, and quite new information is continually found in the reading rooms. The old reading room, a vital scene for the study of history in Finland for over 100 years, is an example of the archive's design in the late 19th century, with its cast-iron structures and large windows allowing the light to pour in. The decorative paintings on the walls and ceiling are the handiwork of Salomon Vori. Old court records dating from the period of the Grand Duchy of Finland are stored on the shelves of the reading room. Microfilm rolls and microfiche can be read in the National Archives Microfilm Room, where approximately 60 microfilm reading devices are available. A part of the archival information, especially genealogical material, but also documents relating to Finland that are stored abroad, have been microfilmed in order to protect the original material. The microfilms can be used on a self-service basis by researchers. The Siltavori branch archives of the National Archives were originally built as a granary of the Russian armed forces in 1885, based on drawings by architect August Buhmann. From the early years of independence until 1945, the building served as a depot of the Finnish Defence Forces. In 1945, it was handed over to the military archives. The Siltavori building was assigned to the National Archives after renovation at the end of the 1990s, enabling storage of 33 shelf kilometers of paper documents. Facilities for research, meetings, digitizing and microfilming are also found at Siltavori. The military archives were integrated into the National Archives at the beginning of 2008. They contain approximately 40 shelf kilometers of official records from the Finnish Defence Administration, dating from the periods of autonomy and independence, as well as archives from private organizations and persons with links to the Defence Administration. The building in Työpajankatu also holds a reading room. The duties of the National Archives Service cover the whole lifespan of documents. The National Archives Services prepares guidelines for development of the national heritage, basing its functions on the Archives Act enacted by Parliament in 1994. Public agencies, in cooperation with the National Archives Service, are responsible for the creation of future archives, a process where the archivists and registrars of public agencies are in the key position. Electronic documents, their disposal, storage and later use are the biggest challenges of modern records management. Records management tasks of the National Archives Service are mainly handled through guidelines, training events and inspections. The goal of records management is that records older than 40 years of the authorities are catalogued and in order when transferred to the National Archives Service for permanent preservation. Private papers are usually a mixed bunch when they arrive at the National Archives Service as donations or deposits. The private archives shed light on issues from a different point of view than the formal archival material. The donor may define the conditions of the use of his or her archive. The private archives and collections of the National Archives exceed 5 shelf kilometers, including the archives of all former Finnish presidents except Urho Kekkonen and Martti Ahtisaari. Electronic preservation of documents requires special care and detailed instructions on how they are formed. Otherwise, archival presentation in electronic format will be impossible. The electronic format provides an opportunity to make records management more effective and to ensure the availability of modern information services. The Archive Technical Unit of the National Archives digitizes and microfilms the most frequently used documents and those which are in very poor condition, according to specific plans. In this way, the digitized material is available to everyone, even from your own home computer. Part of the old documents were written on rag paper that will gradually deteriorate. Fires and water damage, chemical reactions, microorganisms and insect damage have increased the need for document repair. Paper conservators restore old documents carefully using plant-based raw materials. A prerequisite is that the repairs can be reversed without damaging the document. Rag paper can withstand cleaning and washing with water. Documents can even be repaired through a method that imitates the paper making of old times. The Library of the National Archives serves as a national scholarly library in its own field. The collections contain nearly 90,000 volumes of literature, journals, and periodicals relating to the domestic and foreign archival field and the different fields of history. The library also contains the largest book collection in Finland on heraldry and sigillography. The library is part of the joint Linnea database system of scholarly libraries. The old purpose of the National Archives is well depicted by the staircases and corridors designed by Gustav Nyström, where the archival traditions of the past still live on. Here is the corridor with its delicately subdued colours leading to the old reading room. The treasures of history open up behind the heavy door. The special nature of old documents is evident already by their appearance. Yet the contents of a document are more important than the appearance. When a researcher extracts new information, it will be at the best spread from research literature to become a part of the general understanding of history. The oldest document in the National Archives is very crucial for the modern gender history. It's a letter of safe conduct from King Barier to the women of Karelia, dating back to 1316. This parchment letter is of remarkable value, because it shows that the King of Sweden considered this frontier province to be his territory already before the signing of the first peace treaty between Sweden and Russia at Pähkinäsaari in 1323. The holdings of the National Archives include approximately 1 million maps and drawings. The oldest maps date from the beginning of the 17th century. The maps have great informative value because they clearly show the changes that have taken place in the habitation and landscape. Therefore the maps are irreplaceable, for example, for the study of local history. Here is a map of Porvoo and environs from the 17th century. Construction drawings contain essential information on the planning stages of buildings. Here we have architect Carl Ludvig Engel's vision of the buildings at the northern end of the Senate Square in Helsinki. The sketch shows St. Nicholas Church, which at that time had only one dome. There is no sign yet of the university or Senate buildings, but Engel had already outlined two very similar-looking buildings that would act as a frame for the church. A large part of the material of the National Archives dates from the period of the Grand Duchy of Finland. Here we have a few pages from the Culture Petition, which was collected in 1899, as a riposte to the February Manifesto, and signed by academics and artists from various countries to defend the position of Finland. Archives of our national great men are the jewels of the National Archives collections. Here we have a small selection of the correspondence and photographs from the archives of Jean Sibelius. Several source entities give a picture of the relations between authorities and citizens, especially the sources on taxation, population registration, and the judicial system. The archives of the state police, which contain information reaching up to 1948, have in recent years aroused particular interest among customers of the National Archives. They reveal the interest of the political police first towards left-wing circles after the Civil War, and then towards conservative, moderate, and social democratic circles after the Second World War. The curiosity of the political police is evident, among other things, in the large photography collection of Valpo, the state police. This slideshow has offered glimpses of what lies behind the walls of the National Archives. We hope that viewing the presentation has made you more familiar with the archives. Now the maidens on the roof of the National Archives, sculpted by Sjöstrand, invite you to explore the treasures of the archive.